Today I have something important to talk about. But first, let's get pretty. I think it works. What is culture? Well, that's a big question. If you try to find a definition, you might end up with something like, it is the way of life, especially customs and beliefs of a particular group at a particular time. On the other hand, if you look up a definition for subculture, you might find something like, it is a group of people within a culture that differences itself from the parent culture. As you can see, they are not too different from each other, but I would say that the more general definition of culture actually makes more sense to use to describe the goth subculture. Why? Well, goth subculture is rich. It consists of music, of art, of fashion, of literature, and more. We have feasts and festivals. We consist of people of various religions from the whole world, and it's young and old. It's a global thing. I have a hard time finding a parent culture to all of that. Maybe on a local scale it's possible, but on a global scale we are hundreds of thousands of people all around the world with a common culture. Now you might ask, why is this important? Well, I think there are several reasons, and I'm going to tell you a couple of them. Firstly, I would like you to think about what does it mean to belong to a cultural group. It might not be that easy to recognize, but imagine, for example, a group of people living in a certain town or a part of a country. They might have their own traditional clothing, they might have their own traditions, maybe even a common view on life in some way. What do you think would happen if for one day a person of this culture would not wear the traditional clothing? Nothing. Because they would still be a part of the culture, because it would be in their identity. I think that culture is something that is part of one's identity. Even if this person would move to the other side of the world, they might still identify with the culture of their origin. They might also add a new cultural identity to themselves, but they might still feel that they are part of the culture that they in some way left. I think it's basically the same thing with goth, because I think that goth subculture is a part of one's identity. It is not really that much about passing any kind of goth test that you should need to dress up at least this many times of the week to be a legit goth. It is more about an identity, and if you feel that you are part of the culture, you probably are, because goth is a culture and is part of one's identity. In the beginning of this video, I wasn't this much dressed up. That doesn't mean, that is mostly how I choose to go to school for an everyday look. I don't have time to do my hair. I don't think it's fun to do it every day. I like to dress up, but not on a daily basis. That doesn't mean that I am less a part of the culture, because I truly identify with being a member of a goth subculture, and I think that is a part of my identity. This leads to something really important. This leads to goth being a real culture, and that there are no legitimate grounds to defend discrimination of subcultures. I have heard people saying that, well, you might feel discriminated, but but just remove your stupid clothes and everything will be much easier. And I even know that people themselves, goth people, alternative, subcultural people, might even think that to themselves, that discrimination that they experience is legit. Or that that they have themselves to blame and that they are not part of a real culture. But I would say that just like you wouldn't, or you shouldn't at least, discriminate a certain culture because they are following their traditions or that they are using their traditional clothing, neither is it legitimate to discriminate people due to their subcultural identity or to their subcultural expressions. I'm not trying to say that goth people are a minority or that it's better or worse or whatever. I'm simply trying to state that this is a legitimate, it's a real issue, and it's a serious issue that needs to be dealt with. Today I'm going north to visit Umeå for a project that I'm a part of. It's called The Right to Your Own Identity, or if you say it in Swedish, Rätten till sin identitet. And it's a project to raise awareness about discrimination of people based on their subcultural or alternative identity. Even in Sweden, which is said to be liberal or open-minded, this is a serious issue. And 2 years ago, the project published this book. It's called Our Stories, and it consists of our stories. Stories from people that has a subcultural identity or fashion. And it says there are so many crazy stories that you cannot really believe that they are true, that people get treated really, really bad just because they have a certain fashion. I'm going to read you a couple of these stories, but first I'm just going to read the first lines of the back cover. It says something like, if you choose to look different, if you choose to have an extreme fashion, then you are the one to blame if you get bullied or something like that. Because you choose yourself how to look, how you decide to look. I think this is super weird that someone can actually say like that. Because firstly, it's weird because all the time when we have been growing up, we have always been taught that what matters is on the inside. But then, suddenly, when you start to point out of the crowd, not to look like everyone else, then suddenly, your looks is super important. Also, I don't agree with this because I think that it's not just a fashion or how you look. It is a part of your cultural identity. I changed my mind. Yesterday I recorded stories from the book, but I wasn't happy with the translations from Swedish to English, and I felt like the video was too long without me actually getting the wide range of stories that I wanted it to have. So I'm just going to link the book. It's free to download if you want to read it and if you know Swedish. The book is both about stories about reactions from society, about discriminations, or just things that happens when you choose an alternative identity or an alternative style of fashion. But it is also about finding yourself and finding a culture that feels like home, that feels like you. For those of you who don't know Swedish, I'm just going to take one case from the book, which is also you can find information about in English. It's about the case of Sophie Lancaster. The book starts with an interview with Sylvia Lancaster, which is the mother of the goth girl Sophie Lancaster that was killed in 2007. at the age of 20. She and her boyfriend was out walking when they were attacked by 5 young men. They were beaten, both were beaten really badly. The boyfriend survived, but with severe injuries. But Sophie died 13 days later in the hospital. When sentencing the gang accused of attacking Sophie and her boyfriend Rob, the judge Anthony Russell said the following. I'm going to read the quote. This was a hate crime against completely harmless people who were targeted because of their appearance was different. In other words, Sophie was killed because she looked different. It is unbelievable. It is totally unbelievable. If you want to, please feel free to leave comments telling me or telling us about your experiences. Have you ever felt like you have been treated unfair or being discriminated or even attacked because of your subculture? Feel free to share if you want to. It would also be interesting to hear if you agree with my view on subculture as a part of your identity. Now I am done with talking. Now follows my short vlog from my trip to Umeå. Let's go! Today I'm going to Umeå, which is up north in Sweden, for a project called Rätten till sin identitet, which means the right to your identity. In other words, I thought this was a good day to make a video about goth or alternative or subcultural identities.
I Stockholm en releasefest och deltagare var på väg dit och en av deltagarna blev nedslagen på vägen till releasefesten för motverka diskriminering av subkulturer.
Ja, det var också hemskt. Liksom alt-rights, alternative facts. Och det är inte bra. Nej. Det ska inte vara dåligt att vara alternativ. Liksom alternativ är bara annat än vad du kanske förväntade dig. Det är ju inte sämre, det är inte bättre, det är något annat.
Det är strukturen i det snart. Tänk man på alla sätt så kommer jag gå in och göra en liten närmare.
Armband från Sophie Lancaster Foundation. De har gjort så att hennes namn nu står för Stamp Out Prejudice, Hate and Intolerance Everywhere.
Wow! Nej.
Photo shoot done. Totally cool working with it. Someone working with that kind of super old equipment. It was fun. I'm looking forward to see the pictures. I'm so excited about this. I mean, normally you could think that I would be someone who enjoys standing in front of the camera, but I'm not that fond of it. I can do it, but I prefer to do it myself. Mission accomplished. In, out. Couple of hours. Going back to Stockholm. I even think I have time to buy some food. Great thing with flying from a small airport. You can arrive 20 minutes before the flight, no problem. Bad thing with any airport is small chili sandwich. $8. 75 Swedish crowns. That's Now you might be asking, Simon, did you really have to fly all the way to Umeå just for a quick photo shoot? Well, I'm quite easy to move, and the project itself is national, so we needed people from not only Umeå but also other parts of Sweden. It was super fun! I'm so excited to see the pictures. This hairstyle is a little bit not very good because it's hard to fit inside the frame. Well, I'm soon home. You can totally feel this is a quite small plane because it's shaking and it's very loud. But it'll take me home. It's actually a Swedish plane, an old Saab. So it feels like home. Not that nice, but they work. I just got off the train. When the doors opened, when I was getting off, there was a girl standing on the platform, and I think she jumped 1 meter and like, just from seeing me. Do I look that scary? Well, I don't think so. But it was fun.